Hi, this is Grandma's How to Do again, making apple pies for Thanksgiving. And so, here's an apron I happen to make. That's another day I can show you how. It's only a couple pieces sewed together. You can little pocket for yourself, huh? Okay, so we're going to start with the crust. And if you're going to make crust, you might as well make enough and put it in the freezer. So I'm going to make enough for about 30 balls. And so I start out with 3 pounds of lard, and usually I buy it in the 1 pound boxes. That way it's easier, you don't have to measure. So 3 pounds of that, and then I take a 5 pound bag of flour, take 2 heaping cups out of it and throw the rest in. Then 3 tablespoons of salt. Okay, so you could use a pastry blender, but I'm going to use the ones that God gave me, and that's my hands. So this takes a little while to mix. You have to mix it until it forms little crumbly balls. And then what I do when I'm all done is put it in bags of 2, and I put it in the freezer, and then whenever I want to make a pie, I just take a couple out, thaw it out for about 15 minutes or so, and it's perfect. Now the lard is best if it's a little cold. Do you have to charge it? No. I have my little producer here, my grandson, and he's in charge of all the thing here. Now this takes probably 10 minutes, and so if it takes a little too long, I don't want to bore you, put you to sleep, so he can always take some of this out. Okay. So remember, it's a bag of flour. Take a couple big scoops out, and I'd say that's around 15 cups. The way I learned how to make this is my mother and a bunch of little old ladies at the church made pies for fundraisers, and I watched this little lady who never measured. She just started dumping, and I kept counting, and I kept going home and trying to make that pie crust until I come up with a recipe. And somebody always thought it was my grandmother's recipe, but it wasn't. But probably it was somebody's grandmother. So that's good enough. Okay, so it's looking like little pebbles. I'm going to call that good enough because... And I've had this bowl for about 40 years. And I don't know if I could make it without my bowl. My kids also used it for a sled in the wintertime, going down the hills. Okay. Now, as far as apples go, when we're going to make this pie, the best apples are wild apples. And I was from Wisconsin, so we always had so many wild apples, and the reason they're good is because they're sour. And the more sour the apple, the better. McIntosh are good. Granny Smith. Today I have a mix. Granny Smith and Gala, just because that's what I had available. But if they're too sweet, well then, it's just kind of, it depends what you like. Okay. So now I got this mixed up pretty good. Now 3 cups of cold water. I kind of measured it out ahead. Another mixing. And you can kind of tell just by feeling it, really. After a while you'll just learn how stiff it should be. I think over the years I put a little more flour than I used to, because I used to get about 28 balls. Now I'm up to about 32. Now if you're just a beginner rolling out pie crust, then make the balls a little bigger. And it should be kind of sticky. Part of the reason it's a little sticky too is because the lard wasn't as cold as it could be, you know. And you have to get it to where you don't see dry in there anymore. See, now it's just about mixed. And my hands are good and full. Yeah, that'll be good. And you have nice soft hands for about a week. Now, just for you, I want to be able to make a couple balls so I can make the crust. If it's sticky like this, which is good, you can put a little water in your hands, you know. Now this is a pretty good, it's the size of a softball kind of. That's a pretty good size. And if you're a beginner, well, you might want to add a little more, because I roll them out real thin. Now I just want to get this off my hands, which is the trick. And that way I can roll them out. I'm going to get a little paper towel. Okay. I just want to get this off. Normally I would just keep going until I have all the balls formed and in the bags. And I just put them in a little baggie like this, 2 at a time, and then I put them in the freezer, in a freezer bag. Okay, so I think I can get rid of this. Alright, it's pretty good pie crust. Now, you gotta put plenty of flour on the table. This is a pretty big pie crust, but I have kind of a deep dish pie tin. This is my old rolling pin that's squeaky. And it's kind of a nice crust because almost like a pizza dough. It's pretty soft. You know, it doesn't fall apart very easy. And I just keep flipping it until I get it as big as I want. Maybe add a little more. You can add more flour because it's kind of a soft dough. Sometimes I add a little too much flour and then it isn't very sticky. But then it's tough. So you don't want to add so much flour that your pie crust is tough as can be. I haven't used these in a long time. These are kind of antique-y pie tins. And they're kind of pretty. I fold it in half so I can get it over here. Put it in halfway. Okay. It's alright if it's a little baggy because it's going to be kind of a deep dish one. Okay, that's my bottom crust. Alright, now ahead of time I peeled 6 to 8 apples depending on how big they are. Like I say, the wild apples are the best. Okay, and in the meantime, I mixed up my filling. 3/4 cup of sugar, about 1/4 cup of flour, and however much cinnamon you want. tablespoon or whatever. And sometimes I put a little dash of salt. Doesn't have to be. That's enough to make a pie. Okay, then I just kind of mix it around. See, my little grandson here, he stayed overnight and we didn't know what to do on Sunday afternoon. And I said, I wonder how they make those videos. He says, I think I know how, Grandma. Sure enough, here we are, making videos. So he's my little producer, my 12-year-old Weston. Yep. All right, that looks like a good amount for a pie. And I'm going to, I don't know where my knife went, just put a couple gobs of butter on top. All right, so you got your apples and your butter on top. Now we need another crust. This crust doesn't have to be quite as big. So when I make crusts and put in the freezer, I make one ball a little smaller because you really don't need such a big one for on top. It doesn't have to cover as much space. So I take, this is the 2 cups left over of that bag of flour I had. And you just do this. We used to do this for a fundraiser, and you can freeze these pies, but I think the best is to maybe, we're going to try it this year, just to bake them and then freeze them, and then take them out for half an hour, and then put them in the oven for maybe 15 minutes, just to warm them up, because I think when you freeze them and then you bake them, they kind of run over the top sometimes. The apples get too juicy, and so then you run into pies going over the edge, and it's a mess. Now I'm making a 2-crust pie today, but you can make a French apple pie, which is really good, and that's just 1 crust, and then you put the crumb topping on top. I'm going to get a little water because I don't want this pie crust. I think to help prevent this pie crust from going over, I just put a little bit of water on the edge. Then fold it under. And you just keep going around the block like that. I won't go around the whole thing because it would take forever to show, or in case we run out of time here. And then, now this is a deep dish, so it's a little harder to make that fluted edge real pretty. Or you can even take a fork, you know. Okay, so are we running out of time, my little producer? I need a fork here. Okay. My hands are a little wet, so I didn't want to. Okay, he says we have a little more time, so I'm going to keep going. Now, to make it really pretty on top, you can take a little milk and put on top, and then sprinkle it with sugar, and then it kind of makes it glossy. Or you can take egg whites and put a little sugar on that, and it makes it that real pretty thing. Okay, so like I say, you can. This is kind of hard to flute because it's a deep dish one, and I like that so it's less likely to go over. Or if you're not good at that, then just do this. Okay, then you got to poke a couple air holes in there. And like at Christmas time, you can take a cookie cutter and make little stars, or you know, you can do anything you want. Okay, then I take a little bit of sugar. You can stay right there. And throw a little sugar on top. And you bake it at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes to 1 hour. And that should be good. When it's nice and brown and bubbly, that should be good. Now here's kind of the secret to peeling the apples quickly if you have a lot of apples to peel. My apple peeler is getting old, but it does it in a quick hurry. See how that comes off? Peels the apple, takes the core out, and you just cut them in half. And that's it. And my little producer's eating the apples. Okay, I guess that's about it for today. So next time I'll show you something else. Okay, bye-bye.